Today we're starting a new series where we talk all things weapon mods. Welcome everybody, Doc here, Average Gamer Guys, Last Day on Earth action, and another Wasteland Survival guide. So this has been something I've been brewing up for a little bit, so I'm going to start a series over the next handful of weeks. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about some different weapons in Last Day on Earth. We're going to talk about what the best mods are, what also good alternative options are, and a little bit more about modding to help you along your journey here in the Wasteland Last Day on Earth. Let me preface this first and foremost. I'm going to break this series up in some small chunks. There's quite a few weapons to talk about. At first here, I'm going to focus on some of the more important ones, some of the better weapons in my opinion, not only for just your journey, but also just weapons that I enjoy. But at some point as we get through the series, we'll spend the time talking about a little bit of everything. In addition to that, these are of course my opinions. However, I have been, if you're not familiar with the channel, been playing the game since about 2017 or so. Not too, well, I don't want to say too long after release, but I played the year that it was released on and off like many players do. And since then, for last, I don't know, year and a half or so, we've been making a bunch of Last Day on Earth content. Really enjoy the game, played for a long time. Things have obviously changed. There's been new weapon mods, there's been new weapons introduced, so there's a lot to catch up on. If you're watching this at some point in the future, do keep in mind that some of this stuff may have changed. Now, I have not seen major adjustments with weapon mods, but it is important to note that things can change, new things can get added, and this may be out of date at some point. So do just keep that in mind. We will update appropriately if that ends up being the case. Last point I will make is there are a ton of weapon mods. There are a lot of different weapon mods, and as you get along your journey, you're going to find that you're going to collect a lot of the basic ones, a lot of the gray mods, a lot of the simple common mods. You're going to stumble across probably quite a few of the uncommon or the blue mods, and your EX BPs, your extremely rare BPs, are going to be the things that you're probably ended up hunting. In many instances, the EX BPs, or your extremely rare BPs, end up being the things that typically are best in slot, but that is not always true. So I do want to spend a few minutes, and I will do my best with each of these weapons to talk about not only what is the best mod, and maybe situationally where you want to use certain mods over others. That will come into play a little bit, especially as we get to some of the firearms, I think, with some of the active mods. But I'll also try to give a few decent alternatives. That way, if you're on your journey and you have a couple that maybe you could craft, and you're trying to figure out where you need to put those valuable resources, hopefully it gives you an idea of some of the things that you should invest in. Lastly, I'm just going to say that I am a big proponent of having weapons that have a really good overall stat. I'm not necessarily always looking for DPS, because there are ways in many instances, especially with the firearms, to increase or to maximize your DPS. But a lot of times that sacrifices either stability, that sacrifices potentially durability, and so I want to find the best opportunity to get the most damage while also having a very durable weapon, and a weapon that's going to be able to hopefully crit recently, relatively often. Okay, that's not always the case for everything, but that is my general way of putting these weapons together. For all of the melee weapons, which we're going to start with today, that won't necessarily be the case. You won't struggle with that too much. But as we get into the series, there's a lot of discussion back and forth on what you should focus on. We've done some weapon testing. If you want to go take a look at this playlist and see some of our conclusions and our data on some of the firearms, which I think is helpful to kind of understand the baseline for the game. But that's my general sense. I want the highest damage with really good durability, and obviously try to maximize crit chance and crit damage whenever we have the opportunity to do that. So I am starting off with 3 weapons today, 3 of the things that I think you're going to use most often in your journey. And these stay pretty good, especially if you can get a handful of mods on them. We're going to start here with the wonderful Cleaver, one of the easier weapons to put together. Really, really fast attacking weapon. Does some really good damage, great for clearing your basic locations, doing some of your bunker alpha stuff, doing some of your wall tricking for those that really enjoy that, and one that has quite a few pretty good mods on it. You can also get your hunting blade if you're interested in that for your hunter's instinct event, which ironically is enough going on right now. Now there's a handful of blades here to talk about. There's a handful of handles, and we'll chat through each of those. And I want to show these actually in the modification screen so that you can get a sense for that. In addition to that, we're going to spend some time talking about our wonderful metal pipe, which I also think is one of the better, just pretty consistent weapons, especially if you can get some of the top tier mods. You're going to have a couple of different heads that you can throw on this, or blades if you will, but really it's a head, and you have a handful of different handles. This also ends up being one of the weapons with the fewest overall mods, which I really do think helps a lot of folks to be able to get, you know, some good mods on this, get it crafted up, and make it a pretty reasonable weapon. And I would say probably find this pretty decently. You're going to find your cleaver relatively often, probably find your pipe relatively often as well. And then we're going to talk about the big workhorse of the melee weapons. Definitely the highest potential damage dealing weapon that you can get, the saw blade mace. And we have 3 different components here to talk about. We have the handles, we have like the connector point for the head, and then we have the blade as well. So we'll spend a few minutes talking about each of these, what they do, and let's get into it here. So let's start heading over, and we're going to go ahead and start with the cleaver. Here's currently how I have this set up. We have the tactical butcher knife, which is really, really great in terms of just all stats. We take a look at it, you're getting damage, speed, crit chance, and durability. Basically everything we want. We want this weapon to attack quickly. We want it to be durable. And so being able to get this up in, you know, I would say, I don't know, 80% durability is quite good. Really good DPS change here is really nice. So overall, you have a few different options with this. You can see that everything here has some variation. Range isn't as important with this weapon because many instances you're going to be pretty close. The range on this weapon isn't good anyways. It's funny that this does reduce it even further, so you got to be really up in there. But if you are looking for the best, you are looking for that tactical butcher knife, it's going to be just all around giving you everything you want, helping with those crits, again, getting that speed up. There are a few. You can run this, your light blade. The problem is you take a pretty significant reduction here in damage. You also lose a little bit of durability. So I like the DPS. I like to add to this. And again, your tactical butcher knife. It's funny that they made a tactical butcher knife. Is certainly the best out of this. Now, all of your handles essentially are going to help to do a lot of the same. They're going to help to either increase some speed or some damage and hopefully help with some durability. You're going to notice, though, that most of them just aren't that good, unfortunately. So if we change this here, you're going to see that you get a little bit of durability here with your reinforced handle. You're going to get a little bit more durability here with your plastic handle. Then you get some extra durability at the reduction of speed, which I don't personally think is worthwhile. So keep an eye out for the metal handle. You do reduce a little bit of weight, which is just basically how your character runs and how fast they run. That's not going to be an issue with this weapon. It's the speed reduction here for the addition of the durability that I don't really like. The hardest one that you will have is getting this hunter's handle. And the hunter's handle is fantastic. You can see the massive crit chance upgrade that we get. Huge here, good increase on damage and speed, and then you get that nice bump to durability. So very easy with this weapon. There's not a lot to it, very much like the pipe that we're going to talk about. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple to make this the best. Unfortunately, I think, don't quote me on this, I think the hunter's handle is an EX BP, and I also believe that the tactical butcher knife is. So secondary options that you want to look at, just kind of play around with it, right? I think the sickle's okay. The light blade would probably be fine as well. Again, you're getting some DPS increase there because of the speed, some extra crit chance here. On the handle, I would probably just go with the plastic handle. If you can even just throw on the reinforced handle, again, comparing it to this, you're going to get that durability increase. That's not bad. I don't recall this being a very difficult thing to put together, but at the end of the day, if you are looking for the best in slot, you are looking for these two to get that going. All right, let's jump over to the metal pipe, and very similarly, I guess here's what I should do, is I should change this off of the two that I'm using. Very similarly, there's just going to be pretty flat 2 best in slots. Currently right here, we have the big bone, the big 1 bone. All right, this is going to take some bones. One of the few weapon mods that actually requires these. And you can see, look at this crit chance. look at the damage increase. You also get some additional range. Why is this important? This ends up actually being moderately important for your raids. If you end up raiding and get an opportunity in a raid base to have essentially a chest protecting you from a broken wall, the metal pipe is a decently ranged weapon where you can kind of get one zombie into range, smack them, and then help to reduce the damage that you take back. If you've ever watched a raid series or any of the raids that we do, a lot of times I'm running metal pipes. Sometimes I'll run machetes just because they're good as well. But a lot of times I'll run these because they have pretty decent range to be able to do that. Now, you can go ahead and there's a couple of decent options for this. I would be careful about anything that reduces durability because this weapon, especially earlier on, does require you to input a decent amount of iron. It's not the craziest, of course. This is a pretty good weapon to go ahead and fabricate and to craft. However, do kind of keep an eye on durability. Me personally, if I was going to probably look to build a secondary option off of the big one bone, I would probably go with this faucet here. And the reason for it is you get a little extra damage, you get a little extra durability, you still get that range boost. So it's probably a decent overall. But if you wanted to go and you wanted to go ahead and get the saw hatchet, or you wanted to go and get the tin can with nails, just realize that you are trading a little bit of that durability off for some additional damage. And in the grand scheme of things, is that going to matter a ton? No, but it is important, especially if you're kind of limited on resources on what you can build. But I do like the faucet quite a bit. You do lose out on the crit chance boost, which you do get here with the tin can with nails. But again, of course, here, the big one bone, just far and away the best. And I think this crit chance, the range, and the increase in damage are worth the durability here. So do keep that in mind. Not usually a big durability trade-off fan, but with this, I think it makes a ton of sense. Heading over to the handles, let me just go ahead and show there's really three options. So you have your balanced handle, you have your reinforced handle, and then you have your spiked handle. There's really not a ton of difference between each of these. It's essentially durability with some weight reduction, some more durability, some more weight reduction. You get to the spiked handle, you get some damage with your durability and your weight reduction. Pretty easy, pretty simple here. Hopefully you don't have too hard of a time finding any of these. I think all three of these are good options, but of course, if you have the ability to get the spike handle, do that, because when you go ahead and put that together with the big one bone, you can see that your trade-off actually on durability isn't as bad when you're using this, and you get this at really, really nice damage, really good crit chance, nice reduction in weight, which means you're moving pretty quick, and you get that great range boost. So love to see this. Great way to set this weapon up. Big fan of the metal pipe, and strongly recommend if you do use it to grab it. Oh, and I was mistaken earlier. I should have known. Down here, you can see what color these weapon mods are. So your tactical butcher knife and your hunter's handle are both blue mods. Excuse me. So there you go. Learn something. We're learning. We're using it all at the same time. So hopefully for both of these weapons, with some farm runs, with some PD runs, maybe some trade-ins over at Alpha, hopefully you can have some opportunity to pick up. And the nice part about both these weapons are you don't need a ton of EXPPs to make them really great. All right, last one we want to talk about here is Saw Blade Mace. You can see this is how I got this set up. And every once in a while, the aesthetic of setting the weapon up will kind of help to tell you which one is the best. This is one of those, okay? This thing looks absolutely amazingly awesome when it is properly set up. Prior to that, it looks pretty bad. It looks like jankiness. Also, explain to me how taping this here helps you, right? Like, this looks like it'll rotate, so won't it just cut the tape? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Let's get in and talk about this here. You have a couple of good options. Your blades, you have your light blade, you have your persuader, you have your diamond blade, and then you have the Diablo. Honestly, I want to just run the Diablo because it looks the best, but it also has some pretty good stat increases. You have some decent options with this. One of the things that you're going to see with this weapon pretty much across the board is pretty consistent speed reductions. For most melee weapons, I would tell you to be careful about that. With this weapon, it does not matter. Saw blade maces, in my opinion, have one use and one use only. one-shot sneak shots. Okay, you should be sneaking with this weapon. You should be using it as a first hit on a lot of enemies. Get in that massive crit damage. Get in that absolutely massive hit with big DPS. Then swap to something else, because speed is always going to be against you with this weapon. So don't let the speed reductions scare you. You do have a light blade, which can reduce your damage but increase your speed. I would not go here personally, because I don't think that trade-off is worth it. It gives you a little bit more quote-unquote DPS, a little bit of durability, which I like. That's not where I would go. I would look at an alternate. If you don't have the Diablo Blade, which is a blue, I would go ahead and look at either the Diamond Blade, or, let me just change this really quick. I look at either the Diamond Blade, which has a nice increase to damage durability and upping your crit damage and your crit chance, or you could go ahead and you lose a little bit here with the Persuader as well, but it's still a decent upgrade for this. Both of these, either the Diamond Blade or the Persuader, I think are good secondary options. If you can find yourself in with the Diablo Blade, craft this. It's great. Get that huge damage increase, nice crit chance bump, and then the extra crit damage here at the top. Let's go down to what are these? The little heads or the handles. You have an improved holder, okay, which is just basically a sacrifice for speed and a little bit of weight, which is nice for durability. So not a bad inclusion. You have the heavy holder, which essentially does the same thing but gives you a little bit more durability. This weapon having durability is important because you can get a few additional hits in with it. Then you have the crane, which is your first chance to actually trade off some of that speed, get a little bit of crit chance, but more importantly, add some damage to this. So this is probably your best secondary option. And then you have to get pretty lucky, because your EXBP for this is going to be the engine. This has an active mod, which has sawing, which gives the enemy deep cuts, which increases damage from the attack. If you've never seen this in effect, essentially what you do is you wind it up, you give it a big swing, and you're going to get like, what, 3 or 4 hits with it. And you can have a good chance. First hit is going to be a crit, especially if you're in sneak mode, but then you usually have a decent chance of getting some additional crit hits with this. This mod, in addition to a good saw blade and a good holder, is really going to be the difference, and many times allow you to get some of the best one-hit kills in the game. I use this at Transport Hub constantly. Obviously, Bunker Alpha, also very, very good. Get in there, get in massive damage with this thing, and you'll see that the big guys end up going down pretty quickly. Now, again, this is, if we change it, you're going to notice this is an EXBP, so do just keep that in mind. This was actually one of the last mods I ever got in the game here on our main account, and it was pretty rewarding when we finally picked it up from a Blackport PD crate, actually. So pretty sweet. But again, crane is a good option and is actually just a common mod. I think most of the rest of these are just common mods. If you get the crane, I would go with that. The rest of the other two, it's kind of up to you if you want to go ahead and trade in those opportunities and the resources for them, but that is where I would land. And then lastly, the handles are pretty self-explanatory. The nice part about a lot of these melees is with these, it's just like a general step up as you go along. So you're going to see here that durability here on your oak handle, which is pretty easy to get crafted up. You have your heavy handle, which starts again that kind of speed trade-off for durability. Not bad. Don't be worried about that. You actually get a little bit of speed back with this steel handle, and you get a nice little bump. Actually, I'm wondering if this is a similar. Yeah, it's the same durability increase. You just get some speed. You do add the little bit of weight back, so that's not too bad. And then finally, of course, you have your ergonomic handle, which is your best. And the reason it is so good is because it adds in that additional crit chance and damage, and is the best overall durability increase. So when we put our top one together here, you're going to notice we do pretty good. Decent DPS here, which I really don't think actually total damage we could get any better. I just want to look. Oh, that's not true. We could get total damage to be a little bit better here with the crane, and durability, interestingly enough. But obviously we miss out on the engine mod. In my opinion, that's just not worth it. But if you don't have this, the crane ends up being a pretty good option. You do lose a lot of the crit chance from this. So do keep that in mind. And then again, you can see that everything from here is just a downgrade. So we will definitely jump into some additional weapons here, but hopefully that was a good look to get you started, and 3 of the more common weapons that I think you're going to see and probably have in your arsenal. We will jump into some firearms probably in the next episode, and we will just run from there and try to get everything covered. So let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you have some different preferences, but overall, melee weapons should be pretty easy. And I'll just finish with this again because I see this question pretty often. Should you invest resources in weapon mods if you know they're not the best? In many instances, I'm going to say yes, as long as it's not putting you really, really far behind, especially when it comes to melee weapon mods. I think firearms are a little bit different because your lenses, your springs, your factory parts are all a little bit harder to get. With many of the melee weapon mods, you don't have to have that investment. You might have a little bit of weapon parts, but typically those weapon parts means that that is the upper tier or one of the best for that specific item and weapon. So do keep that in mind. Many instances, if it's just basic materials or some steel or some iron, whatever the case may be, some oak, a lot of times it is good to progress your weapons forward. Now, would I do that immediately as soon as I got them? No, I would wait, get a few, go do some farm runs, go do some alpha runs, get some of your weapon mods and start to collect a few of them before you maybe make a decision. But if you find yourself using a weapon a lot and it's unmodified, and you have some that are, again, maybe tier 2 or tier 3 weapon mods, and you have the resources to make that, go ahead and make them. The extra damage, the extra durability, the extra speed, the crit chance, you will actually be surprised, usually does make a pretty nice difference. And then if you end up along your journey stumbling upon the next set of weapon mods, well, then you're just increasing how good the weapon ends up being. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. So, and just be selective. Again, if you don't think you're going to use the weapon a lot, save the resources. Wait until you get to settlement and you just are pouring in some of that stuff. It's easy to fill up. Early on, you're stressed for a lot of stuff like plastic and tape and bolts because of all the other stuff that you have to make in your base. Don't worry about that. Don't invest that stuff. You will get to the point where you can just dump a whole bunch of that stuff in as you progress on your journey. So I'll finish with that. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for checking it out. Again, we'll be doing some more here in this series. If there's any specific weapons you want me to cover right away, leave those down in the comments below. Other than that, we'll bring you some more Wasteland Survival Guide and some more Last Day on Earth content. I'm going to ask for one big final favor. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Likes and comments are always appreciated. We have a Discord if you have any questions. We have a resource channel as well to help you out. So pop over. That link is in the description, but your subscription means a lot to us. We're on the road to 10K, our next big channel milestone. Got some cool stuff in tune and ready for that. So I'm very, very excited, and we need everybody help get us there. So really do appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.